Welcome to my kids. This rock has wisdom, divine wisdom, as a matter of fact. What is the relationship of the wisdom, the divine wisdom, that God creates this rock to God himself? Or the divine wisdom in the creative process of creating heavenly beings like angels and other celestial grand beings. What is that relationship to God? So we spoke in the previous chapter. We begin chapter 9 in Shar Yuchot. So we spoke previously that in the human condition, there are 5 degrees of separation. Intelligence, the highest. Therefore, we stand upright. Intelligence, our head is on top. That leads to our heart, which leads to our speech, to our thoughts rather, to our speech, and then finally to action. We're not talking about the value of your actions versus your intelligence, but the mere capability of moving a rock, what's engaged in that compared to speech is incomparable. Speech is a lot more complex capability of the soul than movement and action. Thought is even more complex, more engaged. And where does thought come from? Well, you only think that which you have strong feelings towards. You don't have a feeling towards something, you'll never think about it. You have strong feelings, you'll often think about it. So your feelings are the source of your thoughts. That's even more complex, developed, intricate part of the soul. And of course, where do our feelings ultimately come from is our perspective, is our intelligence, the way we perceive things. And that's why children, for example, desire candy, because their intelligence isn't developed. When the intelligence develops, and you want more valuable, more important, more meaningful things in life, like Tanya, for example, right? So in the human condition, there's 5 degrees of separation. The intelligence compared to the capability of moving your hand and doing an act is incomparable. There's so much greater. That is a metaphor that the Alter Rebbe gives us to give a little inkling of an understanding of God's relationship to the act of making something that is vested in it, divine wisdom ultimately. How does that relate to God himself? How does that relate to God himself? Well, the capability of doing action, the act of doing something, and wisdom are both creations of God. And hence, they are equally before him. He is equally exalted and infinitely beyond. We can't even say, God, he's way beyond. His wisdom is, or he is, I don't get him. Because he's not in the parameters of something we can get. Because intelligence is a creation. And therefore, to say, to give a metaphor, to say that idea, I couldn't get it in my hands. I couldn't grasp it in my hands. Well, anybody you would say that to would laugh. Because intelligence is an abstract idea. An abstract idea cannot be physically grasped in your hand. Maybe it could be grasped in your head, in your brain. But it can't be physically grasped in your hand because it's an abstract idea. It's not a physical thing. And anybody you would say that to would laugh. So the same thing is, we can't say, oh, God is so great, I can't get God. I don't get him. No. He's far and above and beyond. Exalted. You can't even say the negative you can't get. because he is infinitely beyond that. Infinitely beyond even divine intelligence. And therefore divine intelligence, in a sense, and the physical rock before him, in a sense, are equal in the way that he's exalted beyond. Not the value. We're not talking about the value of a rock versus, intelligence that we're studying, or the Torah. That's something completely different. But the intelligence that is found in a rock, that's found in the human body, right? Great intelligence is found in the human body. Divine intelligence, relative to God, to himself, he's exalted infinitely beyond that. So then, why does the Alter Rebbe give a metaphor, or why do we give a metaphor of 5 degrees of separation in the human condition? That when we can appreciate the difference between our intelligence, right, and how complex and how infinitely incomparable that is, beyond the action, the simple movement of a hand, for example. Not that it's so simple. There's great divine intelligence there, but the capability of doing that, right? Animals make movements. Little children make movements. So it's not a very complicated thing, but intelligence, to understand something, to grasp it, especially if it's an abstract idea of divinity, is incomparably more complex and greater. So why do we use that as a metaphor? The reason is very simple. We could just say, God, he's beyond us. We can't get him. We don't understand him. And we just have faith. But the Alter Rebbe doesn't want us to merely have faith in God. He wants us to break our heads as much as we can to understand with our minds, so we can have an appreciation intellectually about God. Why? If it's beyond us. It's because God doesn't want merely a relationship of faith. He wants us to have a relationship that's not just faith, but it includes our intelligence, and then we'll feed our emotions, and eventually we'll think about it and talk about it and act upon our relationship with God. When we understand, for example, by way of example, when we understand somebody, the more we understand them, the deeper we have a relationship with them. The same thing with God. The more we make an effort to try to understand God, the deeper our relationship will be with him. If all we do is say, well, okay, God, he's beyond, I don't get him, and I don't try to understand him. So yeah, you have a relationship with God, but it's not a deep one. It's not a profound one. It's childlike. Like a child has simple faith in a parent, which is great for a child. That's the way it should be. But then the child grows up, uses their intelligence, and then they try to understand their parents. They try to understand their goodness, how wonderful they are. There might be some negative things too, but our Father in heaven, there isn't, at least, right? And today's Father's Day. Our Father. And wonderful to have all my kids watching right now. What a gift. No greater gift. Maybe better gift around the table, but at least this way. Thank you. So when we do understand a parent, when we understand our Father, when we understand our Father in heaven, even though ultimately it's beyond our ken, but the actual effort to try to understand, and whatever we're capable of understanding, deepens our relationship with God Almighty and makes it much more real. For those people who are important to us in our lives, we don't want to just love them. We also want to understand them. So if God is important in our lives, we want to understand him. And that's what these 12 chapters, We're in the 9th chapter of Shar Yichud Ve'emunah, of the Gate of Unity and Faith. Understanding will give us a deeper faith and will give us a deeper understanding of God's unity in the world. Koyach HaPoel B'nifel, the power of Creator within creation. When we have an appreciation of the power of God within creation, and we understand that with our minds, again, upright people, what does that do? We're upright, right? We're not on all fours. Standing upright means when you understand the truth about God's presence in this world, that will feed your heart. You'll have a feeling towards God. That feeling will give you rise to think about Him. Think about your relationship with Him. Think about the greatness of God. And then from that thinking will lead you to talk and actually do for Him. That's where we're at. All right, folks, this is a very special day. Very special. So let me just tell you, I've mentioned already, but I see that there was this plan, unbeknownst to me, beautiful plan, that my children would be joining the class today. Almost all of them. Label and Mendel, and as I see them over here, Ellie and Esty, Beryl, who else do I see here? Wow, Kayla and Leah. And they're all wishing me a happy Father's Day. This is definitely a great gift. Thank you. And I think some grandchildren might be watching also. And Yosef, Hadassah. Okay, did I miss? And Mushki. All right, folks. So, and everybody else. That's it for today. Stay tuned for more. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you in honor of my kids from my home in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Please share the Alter Rebbe's teachings with others. Sharing is caring. A reminder tonight, 6:30, there'll be a Parsha class for those interested on Chabad ZK or Chabad Zichron website, Facebook page. Join us. Have a wonderful day, a good vach, Shavua Tov, a wonderful, good week. And thank you all for joining, and especially the kids.